You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us Saturday, September 30th for our Sobriety Sprint 5K as we remember, honor, and celebrate those who've lost their lives. This family-focused event will feature a 1-mile fun run, inflatables, food trucks, and more. Register to run or honor a loved one at sobrietysprint.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's 50,000 beef farming and ranching families, we are working hard every day to bring high-quality beef to your table. To learn more, visit oklabeef.org. That's oklabeef.org, linked below. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Got a professional cowboy on the podcast. I think that's the first time I've ever said that. So 500 and something episodes, that's the first, which is very exciting for me, considering I didn't grow up around the land of the cowboy. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce Cord McCoy to the podcast. You have a lot of really cool titles, and I'm sure we'll get to them. Mostly people know you from probably PBR and then The Amazing Race. You're a public speaker as well. You've done some political stuff. You're a dad. 2 kids?
No, just one.
Just one?
Yeah. Okay. Get a little girl called Tulsa. So that's a whole other story. So I met my wife in, truth be known, at an after party in Tulsa at a PBR there. We exchanged numbers and then grew from there. Yeah. Ended up marrying Sarah, but we'd always joke that our first kid was going to name it Tulsa. Yeah. And by the time Tulsa came around here, we'd been married 7 years when Tulsa came around, and we didn't have any other options. So she was Tulsa, whether she wanted it or not.
Oh, that's awesome. That's special, right? You always have that. She'll always have that. Does she have a middle name?
Tulsa Ray. So I had a grandpa named Ray Tucker, and then my wife's mother, her middle name was Ray. So
perfect. Yep. Yeah, that matches up. So you're in town this weekend for the bull riding that's happening at Paycom Center, September 8th, 9th, 10th. This will go out after that, so we can talk about as much as you want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Which we'll get to that. Before we do, though, I want to kind of set some context for people that don't know you. When you meet someone for the first time, what do you generally tell them that you do and who you are?
Oh, that's the funniest thing, because people today, they're like, "Oh man, hey, Cord McCoy, I've seen you on TV," and I'm like, "Well, what channel? What channel were you watching?" I mean, because growing up, it was rodeo. I started making a living in rodeo when I was doing junior rodeos and through high school. Got a full ride scholarship to rodeo at Southwestern Oklahoma State on a rodeo team. And then after college, I never even filled out a resume. I just went straight into professional rodeo in the PBR as well. So through that, between CBS, Cowboy Channel, everywhere that aired a rodeo, did that, and then did a little stint of The Amazing Race. So I raced around the world 3 times. produced my own show called The Ride with Cord McCoy. And then, so I got to figure out what part they know about my life that I'm explaining from. So I know the funny thing is, a lot of people recognize you from The Amazing Race. You carry a rigging bag around for 25 years, and you take a backpack for 30 days, and a lot of people know you from The Amazing Race. So, luckily, I don't think we did anything just too stupid on there.
Yeah. So, I grew up Tupelo, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was actually born in Durant, Oklahoma, southeast Oklahoma, and hadn't made it far. I live in Lane, Oklahoma right now, about 20 miles north of Durant there. So I didn't move very far. That's the funny thing about it. Just feel like I've been all the way around the globe 3 times and landed right where it started.
Yeah.
But no, I love Oklahoma. I mean, we're, I don't know how many generation, farm and ranch. I feel like my whole family, in a sense, is feeding the world. Whether they're raising corn or raising cattle or raising livestock. So I'm kind of the oddball in my family. I kind of went the entertainment idea. When I say entertainment, professional bull riding and sports and TV, things like that. So when you sit around the kitchen table, this brother-in-law has 300 cows, and this is how he's playing the market, and who he's feeding and where they'll end up, and then then you get to the cowboy over here that's just living off of ticket sales on events every weekend.
Yeah. So obviously it's in the blood. You grow up around it, from your earliest memories. Obviously you're working on cattle and riding horses and stuff. Where does the competitive side of you come in then to get into the sports and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think, we all probably have some competitive side, whether it's, having the best podcast or whether it's being the best bull rider or whether being the best in business. And I think there's something about the livestock that keeps me drawn in. We talk about, who are you, or, what does your buckle say, or what's your resume say? When you start messing with the livestock, they really don't care. There's a joke that, the bulls can't read your belt buckle. So you start from scratch every day, and kind of the idea of what you put into it is kind of what you get out. And I think that's what makes it so rewarding. No matter how many TV shows I do, how many, how famous or rich, whatever happens to me, I still show up at the ranch, get up early, put my boots on, and take care of a job. And I think that's satisfaction for me and rewarding. So it's kind of what I like to do. It's nice that I can kind of base my businesses around that, but it's good to be at the ranch, and that's where I love to be. And if anything that I can, maneuver the business around that, it's kind of where I want to be.
Yeah, it's a very humbling place.
It is very humbling, and that's it. It's you get the high side, and 30 million people watch you on TV on Sunday, and Monday morning you got a sick calf, in the pasture that you're nursing it back to life. I mean, you get the extreme of the most famous guy in the world to nobody cares how much money you have in the bank, and nobody cares what you look like, your religion, political. You have a job is to take care of these these animals, and to do your job on the ranch. So it's very rewarding.
Yeah. You might have been asked this before as well. Why do you still do it every day?
I think there's got to be a desire, or maybe that reward. Just quitting bull riding was really hard for me. And I know I tell people that I didn't quit riding bulls because I got tired of it. I mean, it wasn't that. I knew for me at the time, at 33, either I needed to step down a level of bulls because I, having trouble riding those best PBR bulls, or quit. And I kind of wanted to quit at the top level. I didn't know. The bulls that I was raising were kind of got better than my riding. Like my practice bulls were good enough to go on TV, and I wasn't. So I was kind of in their way a little bit by me continuing riding. So the same arena that I had been practicing in and training in became the bulls' training arena in their training facility. So at 33, I kind of made a switch in jobs, but I got to stay in the same arena.
Yeah, it's nice to be around it. Like you said, you build your businesses around stuff you're interested in, and keeps you around.
Yeah. You kind of do what you want to do, but then you got to do a lot of other stuff to make a living. I mean, I think it's the way it's been, and there's so many times, to get ahead of the next, you drive all night here and there, or you train harder and you go faster than the next guy. Whatever business it is a competition, and and now you feel like you're trying to relay this competition on a 3 and 4 year old wild animal. So I mean, if you think this business is undependable, try the buck and bull business of what you're trying to get out of them. And people think that there's some way that you would make the bulls buck. There's no way to make a bull buck. If he doesn't want to do it, he just doesn't. He doesn't do it. So it's finding those bulls that are good at it, that love to do it, and then literally encouraging them, by just like training a dog of a reward system. Man, you go out there and you buck really hard. This falls off, and you go back there and there's feed and hay and water, and this is the good life. So to work less than 8 seconds, every 2 weeks is a pretty good job for the bulls, and relaying that to them that this is good, this is fun, and then you turn around and you get those best ones like riding Solo. He's a 2-time world champion, and there's nothing he loves better than walking in the chute and bucking. But he's made us a living for a couple of years.
Yeah. For people listening that have no idea of context of how much these bulls are worth, put an average price tag on a top level PBR bull.
Last year we had riding Solo had just won his world title, and we had. Some very wealthy people asked. They wanted to own him. Just what would it take? And Solo is part of the family. I don't know if you follow on social media or on Instagram or anything, but he's like my wife and daughter. They give him baths all the time. He's like, when you look out the kitchen window, you see Solo's pen over there because you just see him hanging out all day. But anyways, they offered to buy him, and we were scared to price him even for $1 million because we're gonna lose our bull. Yeah. So we never priced him. Now he hangs out at the ranch. He's bucking here in Oklahoma City as well. But he's a 2-time world champion, and I think our reward is now we have a bunch of little Solo babies running around, and we get to see the next generation. We get to capitalize on his genetics for the next decade or two.
Yeah, is it similar to the horse racing world then?
Very very similar. Yeah, I mean, and the idea, and they keep track of the genetics. The ABBI, the American Bucking Bull Incorporated. You DNA all of those animals. All the bulls and females and scents as well. So you can trace it back to 6, 8, 10 generations of what they're coming from. And when Solo wins a world title, I mean it affects his whole gene pool. Anything that's out of him, cousins to him. We also own riding Solo's mother. Have 2 full sisters to him, so it affects the whole train that he's pushing.
Yeah. Is it kind of strange for you sometimes to see your wife and child bathing some angry animal that's like is very good at what they do in this totally different pens, right?
Yeah.
You get this cute pet over here, not cute pet, but you get your daughter probably is like, oh yeah, right, so it's great. And then you see him and everyone else in the PBR world sees him as like this absolute, powerhouse of an animal.
I don't know. There is a trigger. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people that just love pit bulls, and pit bulls are family, and everybody love them, but they're built and bred to guard and to. I mean, they're vicious animals. I'll get it out there, and sometimes I relate the bucking bulls a little the same. Like you show them love and affection, they can be your best friend, but you also know what you see on TV. Like these things they're dangerous. I mean, you could die. I mean, they're that dangerous. But the cool thing, like my wife, she grew up. Their family owned a feedlot there in Iowa, so she grew up every day around cattle and livestock. So just for the random person to walk in there and to give a bull a bath, I don't know that I would suggest that. But over the years. When I say years, I mean daily, hourly, a lot. The time that you've put into making that connection with that animal, there is a trust in there of like I'm nice to you, you be nice to me, etc. So I wouldn't suggest that for everybody, but she's built that over several years.
Yeah, no doubt. Kind of back to the timeline a little bit. When's like the first time you jump in small town rodeo, and you're kind of like, wow, this is for me. Like, do you see someone doing it? Is family doing it? And you think that's going to be my future?
No, so I'm the fifth of five kids,
okay.
And they all rodeoed before me. My dad, he rode bucking bulls and bareback horses as well. So I kind of knew I'd go that way, but a lot of my brothers and sisters would kind of do it to a certain level, and go on and get a college degree and get a job or something. And I knew that I wanted to be a professional cowboy. I think when I was in high school, I was making more money riding bulls than my teachers were teaching. So I think there's a couple times I won a new truck when I was probably a sophomore in high school. Drove it to school. Like, hey guys, this is what I won this weekend. What'd you guys do? So I knew that that's what I was good at, and that's what I was going to do. Now to the extremity of now I'm 43 years old and I still live in the same arena or work in the same areas I did then. I wouldn't believe, but nobody really prepares you for the retirement or quit. I mean, because when you're 5 years old, you start training to be a professional bull rider, and that's what you wake up in the morning of like, hey, what can I do to be better? I watch videos, I practice, I do, and I mean, you do that for 25 years. That's what you're trained to do, just like a UFC fighter, a wrestler, a boxer. I mean, that's just what they do. And then you hit this wall this day of like, what am I going to do with all my chips now? Where do I go all in at to do next? So that's the toughest adjustment, And I've been blessed to have several options, but not everybody does. But that's a tough wall to hit, and I'm sure that's whatever you're doing. I mean, if you want to do this business and where I put all my dreams, and then somebody says you can't do that anymore, you got to do something else. It's like, what the heck, That's all I wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. And there's so much around that athletes relate to, right? Because it's not their mind that gives way first. It's the body that says, you can't do this anymore.
Something else says that. But I had to come to a realization too that I got to retire riding bulls. I got to quit. There's so many others that I'd see at my age that, he rode until he broke his back, or he rode until he broke his neck, or he rode until, that last bull got him, whatever it is. And so to me, I didn't want to quit, but I knew what was best. I mean, because when you are in your prime and you're 100%, bull riding is dangerous. It's been a tough year in bull riding. I think we've lost 3 like in the last couple months, and you don't really know about them because they're either amateur guys or young guys coming up, that trying to get their start. So I mean, it's not very forgiving sport. So you know the chances you're taking every time you crawl over there, and that's no matter how many thousands of times that you've done it. You crawl over the chute, you know what you're doing. I mean, you should know what you're doing anyways. It's dangerous. I don't care how much safety equipment they put on. It could take you.
Yeah, and like I said, you're reminded of that, sadly a lot, and it goes on. Do you think the guys that, like you said, the guys who had rode until, they had to stop because of an injury or they were forced to, there must be some sense of addiction to the adrenaline that it gives you? Yeah,
I think it's addiction, and then, what you do where do you get your fix of like, man, this is what my life is about. This is what I'm going to do. Even if you have the other foundation of like, I have a solid family, I have, good relationship with my wife, I'm very spiritual, I still do X, Y, and Z, but I like to jump off that cliff over there and, pull the parachute or whatever that is. So that even that is something that, and you kind of got to get a fix for what I get up in the morning for. Yeah. So that's a $1 million question right there.
Have you found anything that's similar to it?
Yeah, I think there's I have a daughter. I mean, there's so much reward in that. And I'm telling you, when Tulsa comes outside, she's 5. When she comes out the back door, the ranch shuts down. It's like, what's Tulsa want to do, you know? And she's got a couple of horses, and she doesn't really like to ride that much. And like, we try to be cool, and like, we're not really pushing this hard. But I think it rewards off a lot of this stuff. Right now, I coach the Oklahoma Freedom PBR team, and to watch those young guys, you feel like all these steps that you've been through before, you get to watch them do it, and then encourage or help them through that. But it's also, it's also tough on the other end. You know, Kobaba, he has we were in Nashville the other day. Derek Kobaba got bucked off and landed on his head and broke his neck. And, to go to the hospital and sit by him and see what they're going to do, when the surgery is. And, but then you see the other side of, he's got one thing on his mind, his daughter's 1-year-old birthday party was the next day, and he wanted to fly home to do that. So we're trying to make arrangements for when surgery, getting flights to go back home to his daughter's birthday party. So you get to kind of live vicariously through all these other young riders that feel like I've already experienced all this stuff, but I get to ride it again with them, and even the ups and downs. I mean, you feel like you feel their pain, but also when they win, you feel that reward as well. So it's pretty neat. And I never had any type of coaching job before, coaching experience. So. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, nothing like. I mean, the one thing that kind of comes to my mind of just adrenaline rush. There's a motorcycle race in the UK called the Isle of Man TT, and it's around an island, and they shut the island down. It's normal roads, and these guys are doing 200 mile an hour down normal street roads and country roads in the UK, and it's chaos. And like, that's the one thing that and the guys do it until there's like a senior class as well. They just do it until. But the same thing, guys die every year. There's no safety. It's normal roads, right? And that's kind of the one of the things that reminded me, just what you said. It's like every time you get on that bike, every time you get on that bull, like, there's a chance that and it's how do you when you retire, how do you there's some part of some people just content, never doing it again. But then something inside other people is like, I gotta find that again. Like that's a huge part of my life that I miss. And it's just that rush for something. Yeah. And I mean,
I think just the idea of maybe even the looking forward to something as well. Yeah. Like I'm training for this marathon, or I'm next week I'm riding a bull. I mean, I don't know. You kind of have that to live for and the drive for. Maybe that's what we need to set up more of. Like I don't know. And me and my wife were dating. And we live 10 hours apart, and the only thing that we would do, we kind of give you something to look forward to. It might be a month till I seen her, but like, hey, we're gonna meet here. So for 30 days, you would have that,
that makes sense.
that date to look forward to. And it's like we'd always try to just set another date. Now we feel like we try to set up. We're gonna do a production sale in September and this in fall. So we got plenty of events going now. So we got. Plenty on the schedule.
They travel with you now?
Quite a bit. So my wife is actually at another bull riding. She took 16 bulls to another event this weekend. So she works for the ranch, but she's a cowgirl, and really Sarah's a women's world champion stock contractor in a sense. So they have 2-year-old bulls that compete, and one of the classes is a women's only, and she was a world champion of that.
Wow. So you mentioned earlier, you're winning a truck in high school. You're successful in high school. You know that the route for you is professional bull riding. You go into that. You're traveling all around the country. When does it that your brother says, "Hey, there's this thing, we should do it, and this is called the Amazing Race"? How old are you when that happened?
Oh man, there was when you were kind of going through that timeline there was 2004. I just graduated college. I kind of went full time.
So you did go to college?
Yeah, graduated. Yeah. I'm as surprised as you. It did take me 5 years, but I got it done.
That's Southwestern.
It was never. Might have been important to Mom, but it was never that important to me to get a piece of paper that said, you're smart enough to get a job. So that was not that important. I mean, I'm glad I did.
What was your degree in?
Business marketing.
Okay.
It really didn't help my bull riding that much, but anyway.
It helps now.
Yeah. Yes, it's great. But 2004, I went straight into. Well, I went to professional rodeo full time, meaning that was my job. That was what I did. I come to Oklahoma City and rode a saddle bronc course and made the championship round. Come back that Sunday, and I think that week I'd been to Canada, rode there, and went to Florida, and I flew in back to Oklahoma City. I was here for the state fair that Sunday afternoon. I come off the back of a saddle bronc horse, and when I was behind the horse kicked out, and the end of his hoof caught me in the side of the head and crushed my skull. So they rushed me to the hospital. Called my family, said, "Hey, Cord's here. We don't think he's going to make it, and if he does make it, we don't think he's going to be mentally stable." So they scalped me and pulled the skull off my brain and kept me in induced coma there for like 12 days. Yeah. And then went to Pinnacle Rehabilitation Center, and pretty much over 6 months had to learn to walk and talk again. So that step back was. That was my low in, I don't know what you call it, depression or stress, whatever that it was. I had no girlfriend, I had no house, I had no job, I had nothing. So I went back in and got in a room there at my mom and dad's house and stayed there. And I think that's when it was the bottom, I guess. Sure. And it became the idea of like, well. If I'm going to go out, if I'm going to die, at least I'm going to be doing something that I love doing. Sure. So I go get me a little helmet out and start back to bull riding, which it was a wreck. If you'd seen originally, the level that you train for 25 years, and then I go outside and I get on a little horse that most of the little kids ride in a little pen, and I can't even stay on it, bareback.
Just because your balance was out.
Yeah, just everything just so jacked up. So you start training again, but at least you have something to look forward to. Yeah. Even if it's going to be the last thing you ever do in life, I've got something to look forward to. So I started back, just training and to think, the doctors too, like you idiot, you about died here and you're going to do it again. So, that was kind of I guess the big turn.
Sure. Yeah. Do you think at that time, if you had been married with a kid, you wouldn't have gone back to it?
I wouldn't have gone back.
Because you're a single. Yeah. You had nothing else.
Yeah. You idiot.
What else have I got to lose?
Even now, I look back like you idiot. It's crazy. But but that in a sense, the success story. Now I get to look back and say, this was the turning point, and this is how I laid in bed and cried, and then got up and wiped my tears away and said, "Bull, this is what I'm going to do." Looking back now, I made the National Finals Rodeo. I went to the PBR World Finals 6 times. I got to ride on the World Cup team. I got to represent the United States of America in Australia. And like you said, like we skipped to, I was leaving a rodeo, Cheyenne Frontier Days, and my brother Jet called, and he said, "Man, I got a great idea. 2-man team racing around the world, pays $1 million, like, whatever." And Jet, he kind of gave me the good sales pitch, and I don't even have TV, so I never even seen the Amazing Race. I didn't know what it was, but of course, whether I had to, eat whatever or jump off a cliff, I was going to do it. Like, let's go. Yeah. So we go home and fill out the bio and everything, and do a short video to send to CBS. And of course, it's about what you think. I'm Cord McCoy. It's my brother Jet. We're gonna win your little race around the world kind of deal. And sure enough, they called us back. Said we seen the video. Would you guys be interested in coming to LA and trying out for this? So of course, Jet, he's like, "Yeah, if you guys buy the flights, we'll be right out there." So we sure enough, we flew out there, and we thought we were dressed pretty normal. I mean, I was wearing the exact same thing I'm wearing today, and the very first question, we walk in this big room, kind of like this board meeting like this, and 10 people over there from New York and LA. I mean, I assume that's where they're all from, but first thing I asked, like, "What are you guys going to wear on this amazing race?" And I looked at Jet, and he looked at me, and like, "Well, we're ready to go right now. we don't have 2 outfits. Like this is the real McCoy here." So that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah, and for people who are listening who might not even know what the Amazing Race is, I mean, it's in its 35th season now. what exactly is it, and like how many legs is there? And I mean, you're around the world.
The Amazing Race is a race around the world, and man, and when you start thinking about your life of like how small of a dot in the world that you are, and if somebody would have told me when I was sitting there in high school, geography, that one day I was going to go all the way around that globe. I mean, I still remember, on our last flight, pretty much crossing the international date line, thinking, I was so confused. I'm like, okay, it was Friday and now it's Thursday. You know what I mean? Like, what happened to this day in my life? So just, to think that one day that I would go all the way around the world and go 3 times was crazy. But the way the Amazing Race works, they select 13 teams. Usually start at 12 or 13 teams, and they're all teams of 2. Everybody starts with no money, no maps, no compass, nothing. And in that you have a backpack. So I think the first time me and Jet raced, we packed a lot of clothes. And the second time we packed a lot of food because, if you're wanting to lose some weight, I can tell you where some countries you could go to. That'll sure help you out on going on a diet. But anyways, and then I think every time that we started in California, they would set your backpacks out there and they'd draw a line and they'd say, on your mark, set, go. And you'd run to your backpack and open an envelope. And in that envelope, it would say, you make your way to Santiago, Chile, and find this temple or whatever it is, and that's where your next clue will be. And you have $186 to complete this leg of the race. So you'd run to the airport or hitchhike, whatever you had to do to get there. And I think people don't really understand the travel. You would have a camera guy and a sound guy with you, and the camera guy has a credit card that can buy any flight. Like there's no limit. So you just whatever the quickest flight to Santiago, Chile is what I want. So I think there's 12 legs of the Amazing Race. You'd go to Chile, maybe do one in Brazil, do a couple legs in South America, and then. Trying to go next. You might go to China or Australia. So you'd fly to different countries. And, people see the hour show on CBS and think, oh, this guy just jumps off the plane and does this. Well, I've been on the plane for 16 hours before I jumped off the plane and what you got to see on TV. But some of the legs of the race would take 3 and 4 days to compete, and they would just kind of show. There'd be a highlight reel of what you did in those 3 days. But usually, whenever you were lost, you were sick, you were tired, that's what they're showing. It's a highlight reel. The second time we raced, it felt like when you would do something, when you would you drop a coconut, that's going to be on TV. You know what's going to air before you even get back home. But I think every time we'd leave in the fall and go compete, and then they would air. The race would air when we would get back, or in the spring. So you would know the results. I think they threatened you with a big contract of a $10 million fine if you told them who won or ratted somebody out. But I know the first time that we did the Amazing Race, I'd just done the PBR World Final, so I just got on 8 of the rankest bulls in the world the week before. And I don't know if you know what makes a bow-legged cowboy, but the inside of your legs where you squeeze and try to hang on, it's tight and sore. So I think the first 3 countries that I went in, I was still so sore from bull riding, I could barely walk, much less run around the world. So it was just getting stretched out the first couple. We rolled on there several months, and I got engaged in Vegas right before we took off on the race, because I didn't want to, Sarah and I were together. I didn't want to go on this trip around the world. I didn't know nothing about whether I come back. So I asked her to marry me before I left. So we're back home six months later, and the Amazing Race called and said, hey, would you guys be interested in racing again? I'm like, heck yeah, we'll race again. We come 8 minutes from winning $1 million. Yeah, I'll go again. That was our money. Give it to us. And they said, okay, we'll leave 1st of November. And I said, man, I can't do it. My wife has been scheduling this wedding for either 12 months or her whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're getting married November 13th, but I appreciate the offer. We can't do it. And a couple days rolled by, they called and said, hey, if we left November 14th, would you go? And I said, I got to make one phone call real quick. So I called my wife, and sure enough, so I got married November 13th and then took off to race around the world the next day.
Yeah.
So I honeymooned with my brother, Jet. So, yeah.
You have a very understanding wife.
Yeah. I think, the very first call that you do after the Amazing Race is, hey, Sarah, I didn't win the $1 million. Don't spend any money. I mean, like, that's going to use what the first thing is.
Yeah. And you did it 3 times?
I did the Amazing Race 16, and then they did the second one was the Amazing Race 18. They called it Unfinished Business.
Okay.
And I think all the people that raced either had problems like us. They were saying that the last leg of the race, another team cut in front of us on the airplane, and that's how they won the $1 million. Another team, somebody got hurt. Another team had lost their passport. But everybody had their own story of like why they didn't win. So that was the second time. And then the Amazing Race 24 was an all-star race. So they invited back all the fan favorites and yeah.
Yeah.
So me and Jet won CBS Most Dynamic Duo, whatever that means. I guess we're pretty dynamic.
Oh, that's awesome. Is there any other cowboys that have ever competed in it?
Not that I know of. I think, they have the Amazing Race Australia and Amazing Race Canada. I think there's been cowboys from other countries do that. And I know several other cowboys have, called me and either trying out for it to do it. But, yeah, there will be. And I tell the cowboys that the Amazing Race is just like rodeo. Like 4th of July, when you try to do 30 rodeos in 30 days and you're traveling every day. I told them, I said, but it doesn't hurt near as bad. They have all this safety stuff and tie ropes. Yeah, it's not near as dangerous as the bull riding.
Of all the countries you've been to, did you ever go back? You ever think, me and Sarah should go back to one of these and actually enjoy it instead of being there for however you are long and just kind of running around and not seeing it?
Yeah. So on the Amazing Race, we won several trips, and the thing about the trips, you'd have to pay the California tax on them to go. So it did cost you 33% or whatever to go. And we'll have to take him within 6 months. So my brother Jet, he's had a young daughter. He's like, I ain't going anywhere. I ain't paying him. I done went around the world. I don't need to do it. So me and my wife, we're newlyweds. We're like, we're going to take all of them. Yeah. So I think we went back to Patagonia or South America. We went to Alaska. Went to Maui. We called the Maui one our honeymoon. I give Jet the 2 sailboats. He sold both the sailboats. I never got to see the sailboats that we won, and then we'd won some cash as well. There's places that I would like to go back to. Yeah. I tell a lot of people though that once you've done the race, you take off to win the $1 million. Like that's why I'm going. Like I don't care that everybody in the country knows who I am. Whatever the Bulls don't care. I took off to win the $1 million, but boy, you get back to the house, you realize that we have already won. I mean, there's some bad places out there, and $1 million is a lot, but if I set out and that's what I want to do, I want to make $1 million. I want to be rich. There's nothing that says I couldn't do it. There's some places out there that they'd be good to get their next meal. Right. So it's and we got it made. We're pretty spoiled.
Very eye-opening for sure.
Oh yeah.
So about this weekend, Oklahoma Freedom. Like I said, you're coaching now. Mm-hmm. Never really been in that position before. Where does the idea start to I want to have my own team and that, how does that dynamic work? Explain to people how that happens as well. Yeah,
I think the PBR teams concept started several years ago, and I think it had been a lot of thought and meetings of how to do it, who to sell the teams to, and how they're arranging that. Last year was the first year that it was actually done. They started PBR teams right off the bat. They sold 6 teams. I think Austin, and there's a Texas team, Carolina team, of course Oklahoma team, Kansas City, another Missouri team. I don't know if that's they one in Arizona, Arizona Ridge Riders. After 1 year, there's already so much popularity. They're creating 2 more teams, and I've heard there's 3 30 different bidders on these 2 teams. So I mean, it's taken off like crazy. But for us, it's opened a whole new door. Now we have, we drafted these guys. So you're studying bull riding, like as you didn't watch enough bull riding before, like 24/7. But it's all like with the palm of your hand. I mean, I can reach out and grab my phone and I follow 60 bull riders, on social media, which most of them just show their good rides. So you got to try to figure out a way to find the bad rides. Most of the time you go in there and find a stock contractor and see his bulls bucking. That's how you watch the guys when they fall off and they mess up. But you start drafting those guys. You kind of get to know them more. I mean, you spend 16 weeks a year, locked in a room with them, or in an arena. So you get to know the guys, and like I said earlier, you kind of get to know their families and what they stand for, what they do, what they like, what they don't like. So there's some characters out there. I mean, you just go out in the world and say, show me the 40 guys in the world that decided to be professional bull riders. So you get a pretty special group of guys in one room from all over the world. I mean, we got Brazilians, Canadians, Americans, even one from Arkansas. I mean, we got them from everywhere. So, but it's I think it's growing. I think just the Western way of life is really popular right now, and you can blame it on politics. You can blame it on Yellowstone. You can blame it on whatever you want it to. But in my whole life, it's never really been cooler to be a cowboy. Which, again, the bulls don't care. You bring a sack of feed and a bale of hay and some water. You can wear flip flops. They don't care. It's not. People get so much the idea that it's an outfit, and it's a way of life. It's not, not an outfit. I mean, I wear a hat because I'm pale skinned. I got to keep the sun off my ears and wear a long sleeve shirt. I got scars on my arms and all that. This is what I need to wear, but it's the outfit. The bulls don't read the buckle. Maybe that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, you're right. Like the whole Western way, the Western fashion, like it's a thing, like and like I said, and for guys and girls, right? Like the buckles, the shoes, the boots, the hats, like even the shirts and the jeans, like it's all there. I
just really hope that the culture follows it. It's whether it's the handshake, open a door, polite, honesty, all of the other things that we feel like that is the Western way of life. The way of life is what continues to echo. Not the cowboys and the big belt buckles and the tall boots. Like
lifted tracks that don't go in the dirt.
Yeah, that's not the way of life. That's an outfit. Way of life is taking care of your family and honesty and standing behind your word. Whatever that may be, that is the way of life.
Yeah, Oklahoma State calls it cowboy code, right?
Yeah. The funny thing, so the Calgary Stampede was doing. I think it's their theme was be cowboy, a real cowboy, whatever it was. But me and my brother Jet got to be the parade marshals of the Calgary Stampede, and I was really nervous because you get online and you have all these Canadians that are Olympians and great hockey players, whatever it is, and then they got 2 guys from Oklahoma coming and being the parade marshal. I was afraid people were going to throw tomatoes at us or something. So but that was their theme of what it means to be cowboy, and that was their theme, and the manager or president of the Calgary Stampede felt like that we did the amazing race, and we held up the code, I guess, of a cowboy, and that was what they wanted to promote. So we kind of fit the bill that year, anyways.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about kind of just growing up and your faith as well, because obviously that's a huge part of kind of your life, and it seems to generally parlay a kind of way of life with cowboy as well, right? Like they're always just cowboys generally seem to be pretty spiritual, and
I think bull riders kind of get an advantage. And the advantage of you really could die. Yeah. So it in a sense it kind of keeps you in check of hey, you got everything at home lined out, because this could be the last time that you see you, and not only that, I mean, 100,000 miles a year on a truck a year, you could crash. I mean, they're whatever could happen. So I think the bull riding mentality is it keeps you in check, and nobody is really too cool to think about, hey, what's next, So I think you get it on your mind, and you get, hey, what's your decisions here? I mean, do you know God? Have you made arrangements for the pearly gates? So I think you got to ask those questions and answer those, and so there's a lot of praying, a lot of spiritual stuff, and also I feel like as well, if you kind of have that foundation of like, man, I got something to live for, something to live on. I've got some direction in life. If you have that solid foundation, when you fall on your face, it sure don't hurt near as bad either. That like, you know what, this is, this rodeo is not the only thing that I'm living for, or success monetarily, whatever. I've got bigger things in mind. Like I've got my sights set on, something way beyond this. So it's that comfort and peace that you've got. Like I'm not scared to death because I know what happens next.
Right, and even on the kind of ranching side of it too, it's I had Terry Stewart Forrest on the podcast, and she made a great quote. She said, "We're stewards of his land."
Oh yeah.
And just looking at it that way from a ranching perspective, obviously with the bull rider, you like I said, you could die, and you need to have things in order and know that you're kind of mentally all there as well. But on the ranching side, like the land is it's like I said, it gives you so much.
I'm just a rental. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's as people wherever you go, like, oh yeah, this is God's country, and I kind of always joke, I'm like, yeah, it all is. It all is. We're just using it. But I do think that whether it's sunrise, sunset, watching a baby calf be born, or wiping the milk off of a colt's lips. I mean, like if something can't bring you back to like this come from somewhere, like this is what he made, and not only that, the circle of life. I mean, animals don't live that long. So you get to watch the full circle of a lot of things to see how it works. So yeah, I think being a cowboy or a rancher definitely keeps you in check. You live in the city, and nobody dies until they're 90 years old, and you don't really get to see it. You live on a ranch. Uh-huh. I mean, we saw it this week. We had a couple cows that just couldn't make it, just either age or birthing something. So yeah, I think ranching, you get an advantage.
Yeah, definitely. Couple more questions for you. Outside of ranching and riding horses, the general cowboy lifestyle that you have, are you a huge fan of music? Country music specifically? Yeah. But
I think it's crazy that now I have a cell phone, so you have music saved on there or whatever. Yeah. But I still don't have TV, and I drive 60,000 miles a year, and I don't turn the radio on. So I do like country music. If I had to listen to any music, it would be country music, but I don't really listen to the radio that much.
Yeah. Why is it that you don't have a TV and just kind of stay away from listening to the radio and can go on those drives without you actually... I talk on the phone quite a bit too. Sure. So, and maybe it's mine. My mind to have two things going at the same time. I'm not the best at it. The funny thing is, when I went to college, me and my brother Jet, we never had TV in college, and I just never got it. To me, it was just something else to waste time. Yeah. So you're not missing much.
Yeah. No, and I guess I do that now. And I do stay a lot of hotel rooms, and I'll literally get to the hotel and I'll turn the TV on, and I'll flip all the way around about 3 times, and I turn it off. I'm like, there's nothing on this square tube here that I really need to have. So yeah, I don't mess with TV much.
So the Oklahoma Beef Council are a sponsor of the podcast, and one of their favorite questions is, what is your favorite cut of meat?
Ribeye, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, well, it'd probably be the tomahawk, but I don't buy it very much. So yeah. I don't know. And that's, I never had a hobby my whole life. You know, I'm always professional bull rider and cowboy and run ranch, but I never did. So I always thought I'm gonna get into cooking. Like I'm gonna start, cooking. And you're not gonna believe this, but when the COVID deal hit, like we locked up at the ranch. It was the best time ever. We cooked steaks every day. I mean, our freezer was full of meat. Yeah. I'm like, if this is the world shutting down, sign me up. This was it. So I mean, we just, nobody come to the ranch. There's no other business going. We just cooked a bunch of steaks and fed cattle and took care of the ranch. So it was pretty nice. But ribeye. But you get a good cook, and at a good steak, kind of hard to screw it up. I mean, you talk about like even the Brazilian or the chili style, they just put salt water on them things, and you can eat a bunch. But no, I love meat, steaks. Yeah, I'll eat one for breakfast and lunch and dinner.
Yeah, beef is what's for dinner, right?
There it is.
All day.
Yeah.
Do you have? I mean, of all the places you traveled to and been to, is there one or just a steak that you're just like, man, I gotta like from you wanting to be a chef and get into learning how to cook, rather than just throwing it on the salt and pepper or getting a Traeger and using the app, and it's kind of cheating. Like, was there anything in the cooking that, like, man, if I could cook steak like that I've had on my travels, anything comes to mind?
Yeah, not really. I mean, but they've got those cookers so good now. I mean, you can dial them up and just almost bake them. Like you make everybody look like they're really good cooks. It's not like I feel like the old days. You got to get the fire right, and got to get coals, and I got to get all this temperature right. I think the pit bosses and all them, they'll make anybody look like they know what they're doing. So if you hadn't done it, try it out. I mean, you buy a good piece of steak, it's gonna be good. Like it's fed to be good. It's bred to be good. I mean, they have put a lot of. If you don't think so, like go get a roping steer or something that's not a beef animal, and then try to make a steak out of that. And I say that there's so many in my family that raise beef cattle, and my father-in-law owns a feed lot. They're feeding the world. And they've got those beef animals, just like they got the bulls bred to buck. They have bred these the technology that's went into beef, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I went up to there's one up in kind of northwest Oklahoma that I went up to visit a few months ago, and I couldn't believe how much of an operation it was. And the guy I had on the podcast, he's like, I love Excel spreadsheets because everything we have is technology. Everyone's tracked, and the food, everything is
crazy.
Tracked.
Yeah,
there's animals as far as the eye can see, and you're like, wait a second.
How do you keep track of this?
Yeah, it was, they're coming in from all over the country and going out and all this stuff, and they all got different balance. Just like, wow, this is not something just like that I would think that, some nerd is doing this kind of thing. You have to be very, very intelligent to work all this stuff out, and it's generally not something you think of when you think of specky, nerd-looking, cliche cowboy, right?
Yeah.
They don't go together.
Yeah.
But this guy knew everything, and I was like, wow, it was fascinating to look.
Yeah, that's what it's turned to the technology that's in cattle business now. Yeah. I mean, I'm literally the bottom of the totem pole because I'm just the cowboy out there pushing the cows. But the numbers, from grains to beef, if they can make, I don't know how many billion cattle, weigh one more pound a piece at $3 a pound. I'm like, you don't have to figure that very many times. We're like, oh crap, look how much money we can make.
That's a lot of money,
a lot of technology is going in. I mean, it's a fast moving world.
Right.
I think if I had it all do over again to go get an education, and I would go into agriculture. I'm like, we're not going to stop eating. I mean, my cell phone might be out of date here in about 6 months, but we're not going to stop eating. So if I really wanted a job, man, that'd be a solid one. Yeah.
Last question. If you were to ever write a letter to bull riding, what would you say?
If I was to write a letter to bull riding, first I would do my very best to sway them out of doing it. But then after they decided to, yeah, I think I would turn around and do it all back over again. As crazy as that sounds, if they would let me take about 5 or 6 days out of that story, it would all be roses. But yeah, that's weird though, because the struggles in my life is what have made me who I am today. So, you know, if you take out those 5 things, you know, am I just a jerk with a shiny buckle? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People don't need to tell me how, you know, how to be humble. I learned that. I got that. I mean, you know, I don't need to stand up on top of a mountain because I know how far it is to fall. Yeah, I wouldn't take anything away. But man, if I had a little boy, surely he'd do something different. And my dad probably said the exact same thing. But you know, there's huge reward. But and my mom, she never said a word my whole life. And I told her that I was retiring. I'm at 33 years old, and my mom was like, finally. So she never said anything the whole time before that she was encouraging or not encouraging. Yeah, whatever I wanted to do was good, but she was glad I finally decided to quit. But yeah, I've never seen anything so rewarding and so humbling in the same breath. And there's a meme the other day of like, you know, this is what they think cowboys are doing, you know, just partying and celebrating, and you know, really they're, you know, driving all night and waking up in hospitals and you know, not bathing for 3 days. It's people have you build up like a glory, you know, glory figure, and it's like, no, it's work and it's grind, and you know, for 8 seconds a bunch of people cheer for you. Other than that, yeah, you better love it. You better love it.
Yeah. I said last question, and I always say this, but what's the plan for the future? Where is this going? What you said, you always like to have something to look forward to earlier on. Like, what are we looking forward to now? What are we doing? You know, where do you see things going?
I tell people I used to work 8 seconds a day, but now I got some free time for sure. I don't work that long anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm getting more excited for the next turn and the next opportunity, because, like I said, my whole life growing up, there was nothing I wanted to do but ride bulls, and you hit that wall and say, I'm not doing that anymore. Well, then, you know, then this job opens up, this opportunity opens up. So now I'm about 5 different jobs or way of life through it, and now I get more excited about it. Well, dang, what's my next opportunity, my next turn? Recently, we've bought a rodeo company, or I own McCoy Rodeo, and we produce rodeos. So so now we're kind of wheeling and dealing with different venues to rent and produce rodeos, and now we're adding concerts to them. So I think I'll be in the same arena as, you know, I'd always competed in, but now I'm kind of turning the dial. Like I get to bring those celebrations to town. I remember, you know, when we'd go to county fairs, we'd go to other rodeos, like that was the biggest day of the year for that small town. And, you know, now, I mean, I think it's the biggest day of the year for Oklahoma City. Well, now we get to bring, you know, those events to those towns, and then also kind of add the concerts, you know, the country music or even rock and roll, you know, to be a part of the excitement, not only for the riders, but, you know, 10,000 people get to save their money and spend it to go get entertained by what we do. So, I guess I'm excited about that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, and then, like I said, using your business and marketing degree that you probably never thought you'd use.
No.
But yeah, it's great to still be in it and be around it, but also, like I said, you're bringing that now. You're putting it on, and you know everything from the inside because you've done it for so long, and you have all the connections as well.
Yeah, I think the connections is the biggest thing, and especially say, hey, I know these best bull riders, and I know where the best bulls are. You know, I can create this. But there's one thing in business is there's probably somebody quicker and smarter and better. Go find that guy or girl, and you know, get them on your team. It takes a posse.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it. Wishing you all the best for this weekend. For people listening, they can go to McCoyRodeo.com, and then you're on Instagram at Cord McCoy as well.
Yep. There's also I use on Instagram, I use McCoy Ranch a lot. It's way easier to talk about your bulls and your animals than yourself.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I do Cord McCoy a lot, but also run the McCoy Ranch on Facebook and Instagram both.
Yeah.
I had Twitter for a while. I had a pretty good little following, but somebody stole it and they wanted $10,000 for me to give them the password back. And I'm like, you know what? Just keep it. It wasn't that big a deal. So you keep it.
Awesome. Well, I'll put the links to those in the description for people listening. We will catch you next episode. Cheers.
For sure.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us Saturday, September 30th for our Sobriety Sprint 5K as we remember, honor, and celebrate those who've lost their lives. This family-focused event will feature a 1-mile fun run, inflatables, food trucks, and more. Register to run or honor a loved one at sobrietysprint.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's 50,000 beef farming and ranching families, we are working hard every day to bring high-quality beef to your table. To learn more, visit oklabeef.org. That's oklabeef.org, linked below.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.